Next up, we're going a bit more obscure with The Super Spy, another game I'm playing for the first time. With this game I was just checking out the Switch's eShop for the Neo Geo games and I saw this. I knew of a lot of SNK's games and series but I'd never heard of this one, so I thought I'd try it out. The Super Spy himself is Roy Hart, tasked with taking out terrorists by the CIA. Fair enough, so let's get started. The game's in first person, we can move left and right, sometimes forward if there's a hallway in front of us. We can duck, punch, kick and use a knife and gun. The knife thrusts down the more it's used and the gun runs out of ammo quickly, so we'll mainly be punching and kicking most of the time. The gun is the only way to hit enemies standing towards the back of the screen though. As we start, we're told over the radio to destroy the terrorist bomb and its blueprints, so off we go. The first thing I noticed is that this game looks really nice with its massive enemy sprites. The second is that the dialogue is weird. The first door we go into, this guy just says, "Terrorist camp and arms factory." Alright, what about it? The next room has a sign to say they're being forced to build bombs. See, that makes sense. And already I'm dead. This is a 90s arcade game and they did intend for you to keep putting in more money. It doesn't help though that some enemies seem to have their attacks go through yours no matter what, and some take quite a lot of punches to the head before they finally go down. Third room and I'm already at a mini-boss. I just shot him to death before I could do anything. We'll be seeing more of them though. The next guy gives me a machine gun. Like the pistol, it's good, but it runs out of ammo too quick. The guy in the next room is just finding out that the bombs terrorists are making him make are gonna be used for terrorist actions. I mean, there were a couple hints. And this weird looking dude is more preoccupied with who's hiring me to save him than actually being saved. Don't worry, I'm not going to point out every hostage, just the interesting ones from now on. Up another hallway, and considering how much of the pain later mini-bosses will be, I'm thankful that this guy chose just walk into my knife repeatedly, at least until he threw a net at me and punched me to death. But all killing me did was refill my gun's ammo and fix my knife. He gave me enough experience to level up too, increased my power by 2 and what I'm guessing is accuracy by 1. Oh yeah, there are experience points and leveling in this game too. I also entered the first of many trap rooms filled with enemies and no reward just to waste your time. The door right next to it shows a map of the floor. There's no way to look at these again without returning to the room you found them in, so you'd best memorise it. And the door next to that has a doctor who heals me by stopping my blood and declaring himself stronger. That health regained is then immediately lost against another mini-boss. And that's it for the first floor. Like with the hostages, I'm not going to go into as much detail for the rest. Floor 2 has the first of many hostages that will give me a new knife. What these guys are doing with them I've no idea. And for the first time, stuck fighting 2 mini-bosses at once. Luckily I still had some ammo. After gunning down a smoker and taking out his friend I hit level 3, and then I take down a mini-boss to end up fighting another seconds later. This will happen a lot, and it's irritating. And after leaving the room I fought from in front of, I get stuck with another immediately. And a little to the left I'm fighting another. Just fuck off for a bit please. Not on floor 3 very long before I'm fighting both together either. And a bit to the left of that room I'm fighting them both again. At least these two got me to level 4. Not long after I find a guy tell me they plant a bomb something called the Tadoya Company, and another tells me that there are 10 bombs around. That's pretty much it for this floor. Now to the basement and look at the size of this one. You see how slow Roy moves? It'll take ages. At least it's the last floor of this place, and I'm thankful for it. So I may only be just over 20 minutes in, but the gameplay is already starting to wear my patience a bit. There's just not a lot going on to keep this game interesting. The constant ambushes by these two aren't helping break up the monotony either. Especially when I kill them and I'm immediately booted out of the room into another fight with them. Also, I gotta love how Roy can't turn around and has to go down corridors backwards. Just so I learn from this guy that I have to get to the weapons room. Time for a long trek back involving fighting the same mini-boss 3 times in a row. Leave me alone. A bit later I run into this meathead, Miura, one of the 2 bosses. I don't know what's wrong with this guy, sometimes he just stops in the middle of the fight and throws a tantrum. Then he strangles me and quickly punches out all my health. He doesn't last long though and I get a keycard off him. So of course I guess to make up for going too quick, this guy shows up again to slow things down. Seriously mate, just give up. In the next door I run into Miura's brother, Wilson, who threatens to beat me up. Ooh. He's exactly the same as his brother except his clothes are a different colour. I stab him to death and get the second key card, or card and the key as they're calling it. Well, now I have both keys, it's time to go to the safe room and end this. Of course the boulders are still coming just to drag it out a bit more. I even reached level 5, not that I'll be eating it. Anyway, I get to the safe room and blow up the factory. Mission accomplished. I know I complained about the gameplay getting stale towards the end, but at least it had the decency to be short. Half an hour, it's not a bad... 6 out of 10 bombs are gone. Terrorists taking over to the Earth Corporation. 6 leaders. There's more. This game would have been fine at just 30 minutes. It wouldn't have outstayed its welcome too much. But I guess I have another half an hour to play. Wait, I have 2 more hours? Jesus. You know what's worse? The amount of enemies have skyrocketed. The first floor is very short, but there are so many terrorists it takes forever just to go left a little bit. On the second floor, this guy tells us this group also blew up an underground centre. Is it because Roy took his time sidestepping the way there? On the same floor we have my favourite hostage, who asks if they're going to be destroyed, as in the last terrorism. I don't even know what that means. Is he saying he was once destroyed in a terrorist attack and he's worried about it happening again? If that's the case, I think his chances are pretty good regardless of the outcome. Another one lets me know that 5 of the 6 leaders each have a detonator for the bombs, and on floor 3 a hostage tells me the building is 16 floors high. Please no. I also find the first hostage that it's impossible to save. Terrorist kills before you can do anything. Otherwise they're the same as the other trapdoors. Floor 4 and I seriously hate the gun enemies. They charge in on screen and shoot the shit out of me before I can get the chance to duck. The map on this floor shows that there's 2 lifts. As if the game wasn't dragging me enough, now there's forks in the road. And there's a tosser whining about security while I only just noticed I've been level 6 for a while. Nice. I also get a warning about the 5th floor being out of power, and not long after, the first of many pointless rooms with nothing in them. So as I said, there are 2 lifts on this floor and I chose the left one, which takes me all the way to floor 12. That was a horrible mistake. After taking out the first couple of enemies, I'm attacked by this guy again. Right after he dies, one of these guys shows up. Been a while actually. And then both at once, and then another big guy, and then another baldy, and then both again, and the pattern keeps repeating. And this is a small room with nowhere else to go, so there has to be a purpose to this, right? There isn't. It ends to spawn mini-bosses just to waste your time. So by the time I figure it out and leave, I'm not in the best mood and I just want this game to end. Back down to floor 4 and take the other lift then. The power being out doesn't mean anything gameplay wise, it just means things are a little bit darker. Oh no. Oh, another fog. I learned my lesson this time and went straight for the right lift first. On floor 6 we find out the boss above all the leaders' name is King, and that we need keycards from the 5 of us to get to him. I reach level 7 and run into Nick, the first of the leaders. He poisons me before we can start fighting, but it doesn't matter. I'm constantly dying in this game and I've got unlimited credits. Other than that, he's just a pallet swap of one of those mini bosses from the factory. I just got him down, which cures, eliminates, the poison. On to floor 7 then, and one of the hostages says that King is on this floor. I don't buy it, this game wouldn't be kind enough to end early. But there he is, and his reaction to being stabbed is hilarious. But surprise surprise, he isn't the real King, it's a guy in a mask called, and I am not joking, Bat Gallop. And he has the gall to call me stupid while he's going around with that name. Oh well, 2 down. On to floor 8. I'm level 8 too now as well, I didn't notice. It's another floor with multiple lifts. One takes me back to floor 12, thankfully not the same dead end with endless mini-bosses. Although mini-bosses are all over this floor, which makes this short floor take an eternity to get through. At the end there's just one hostage talking about the 13th floor lift, which will be very important soon. Now to fight through those mini-bosses again on the way back. I'm level 9 now too. Back on floor 8 and I take another lift to floor 13. I hate the enemies that slide on screen when we're about to enter the door the most. And this is what those 2 detours have been for, brass knuckles. My punches are now permanently stronger, I don't even lose them when I die, should make things go a little quicker. Now I can finally take the proper lift up to floor 9. Very short, nothing interesting apart from the ugliest hostage in the game. Floor 10, even shorter, just contains the next lift and nothing else. Floor 11, and we run into Machine, the 3rd leader and a heads up of the meatheads. He never actually tried to shoot me with that gun of his, he was just content to slowly walk towards me and let me shoot him to death. I'm not complaining. And that's all for this floor, we're getting there, just 5 floors and 3 leaders left. Well, 3 floors left actually, since we've already been on 12 and 13. Nice! Floor 14 is long and boring, but it does have another leader, Geese. Now that other Geese created by SNK, that would be too cool for this game. Instead it's just the ugliest guy in the game who also uses a knife. Boring. I rough him up a bit and he suicide bombs me, which does not affect me at all. So Roy can take an explosion to the face and barely react, but a bit of punching's too much for him. That one floor took nearly 10 minutes to get through, but now floor 15 was so close. More fighting and I find another hostage who stabs me. This is Pink, the last leader before King. She didn't do much, she just walked up to me and let me punch her repeatedly. And that's all 5 card keys, finally. Final floor. At some point I hit level 10, which I believe is the highest level. You know you're at the end of the game when you're fighting gold terrorists. Nothing interesting to say about the floor itself, so let's just skip ahead to the final boss. And there's King, the real one this time. And he's just like most of the others, walked up to me to get punched back and repeat. Thing is, we've already seen what he does with the Bat Gallop fight, which makes for an even more underwhelming final boss. I do notice though that even while he's fighting he always walks with his hands in his pockets. Combined with his white hair makes me think that maybe he's an older version of K-Dash from King of Fighters, who eventually turned to crime. I know he predates K-Dash by at least half a decade, but I have to find some way to have fun with this game. As King dies, he just goes on about how others will take his place and all that. Whatever, let's see this ending. And that's it. We get told that terrorism is still a thing. Fuck you SNK, making me slog through a boring game for that. And that's the Super Spy, a game that, if it had ended when I thought it would half an hour in, I would have thought it was just okay. But about 2.5 hours of dull, repetitive combat makes this one of the most boring games I have ever played. All it has going for it is an okay, but not good soundtrack, and some nice graphics at the time. I doubt I'll ever play this again. The only further exposure I'd like to have with this game is if Roy Hart somehow got into a new King of Fighters or Neo Geo Battle Coliseum or something. That'd be alright. Next.